welcome to the state of the market. I am extremely excited that you've taken the time to join us today. Wow, do we have a lot of information to cover, and we're super pumped about it. And so thanks for taking the time. Thanks for joining us. If you're watching from one of our watch parties, we warmly welcome you. We're a real estate team here in the San Francisco Bay Area in Sacramento County. And today is all about the state of the San Francisco Bay and the greater Sac region state of the market. And what's amazing is I've been doing this for 18 years, and every year I do a state of the market. And by far, barring not a single year, this is the year that people have asked me more questions about the market, specifically going into 2021. I'm constantly hearing things like, Rick, what's happening to the market? What can we expect? What do you anticipate is going to happen? What about inventory? What about interest rates? Are we going to see prices go up? Are we going to see prices go down? Is there a bubble in the market? Like, Rick, what's going to happen to the real estate market? And today we've got a great presentation for you. So sit back, maybe grab a warm cup of tea, a hot cup of coffee, a bottle of water, whatever you drink, and stay with this on this journey with us today. So if you're just now joining us, go ahead and comment below. Would love to know where you're from. I'd love to know who's watching. If you're on one of our watch parties with one of your friends, one of our team members, that's great. Love that. Just comment who you're watching and tell us where you're from. And we'd love to know that. Know this, that there's nothing to sell here. This is what we call a public service advisory. For many of you, our role, you look to us as your local real estate economists, and we want to update you and educate you what's happening on the market. And so there's nothing to sell. We've got no properties that we're going to be sharing with you today. This is all informational, it's all educational, and it's going to help you know where the market's been and where it's going. I know that we've got a lot of people that have signed up for this event, and they've signed up through this event all over the country. I think we even got some people in Canada, our northern territories, and I know that they're here. And I want to tell you to stay tuned. I'm going to talk a lot about what's happening in the San Francisco Bay and the Sacramento region, but I want you to know that what happens in the Bay Area and Sacramento permeates throughout the rest of North America. And so if you're one of our partners that's all over the country, stay tuned, because what's happening here is probably going to be happening in your community in months or even years to come. So it'll be of great value to you. This is the number one question we're asked by far, Rick, what's happening to the market? And that's what this is all about. Now, you're going to find I'm not going to talk about COVID or politics. I figure you've got enough sources and enough talking heads telling you what's happening in that market. What I want to focus on and what's happening in the real estate industry, what's happening in your community, what's happening with your home values, and what can you anticipate. So joining me as a special guest is our technology guru. He actually travels all over the place with me doing these slides. We've been in all over the country. He's affectionately known as LG on the PC, and he's going to be working all the slides. And so say hi, LG. Hey, team. And he's going to be going through the slides and working through that. So he's behind the scenes. He's also answering a lot of your questions. And so if you've got questions as I'm going through this, like, just put them in the comment section, and either Lorenzo or one of our team members who've shared this video with you will answer those and get you some more information. So let's get started. Let's talk about what's happening in the state of the market. Lorenzo, let's go to our first slide. Here we go. Wow, what a market. 2020. Let's actually go to the next slide. What is happening? In 2020, if I were to describe real estate in one idea, in one concept, I would tell you that real estate has been a beacon of hope. It has been a beacon of hope amongst choppy waters. And what do I mean by that? Well, in 2020, there were a lot of choppy waters. Think about your movie theaters. Do you remember the day where you used to be able to go to an actual movie theater? Prior to them being closed, you would be able to go in there, order some popcorn, soda, watch a movie. Very difficult in 2020. Those are some choppy waters. Think about the restaurant business, how choppy those waters were. There were times where people were working from home. They would have to order food. They couldn't go out to a restaurant. They couldn't eat inside. They couldn't eat outside. Very choppy waters. We think about what's happening at the happiest place on earth, Disneyland of all places. Also very choppy waters, hasn't been open in several months. And real estate has been a beacon of hope. It's been an emotional beacon, but it's also been an economic beacon. It's been an economic beacon because home values in the San Francisco Bay Area and Sacramento County rose in 2020 nearly 10%. Somebody once said about the stock market that you only get hurt on a roller coaster if you get off before it stops. And that would have been absolutely the case in 2020 with the stock market. In comparison, with the real estate market, it steadily plodded away in 2020. And homeowners who owned homes throughout the San Francisco Bay Area and Sacramento region, their home value went up nearly 10%. In addition, interest rates dropped. Interest rates actually declined over the course of 2020, creating one of the greatest booms in history of interest rates. Lower interest rates allowing homeowners to refinance and save on their monthly payment, drive more money towards their principal balance, and probably most importantly, enabled those that wanted to buy a property to be able to buy it and have a lower payment, all as a result of having low, affordable interest rates. So what do I say beacons? The real estate is an emotional beacon of hope. When you think about your home, it has a special meaning. A special meaning for you, it has a special meaning for me. When I would go on vacation, when we used to do that, and we'd walk through our front door, we were home. When we would go and invite people over to our house prior to COVID and have dinner together, we'd invite them over to our home. Life occurred at home, and at home has never been more important than in 2020. And the reason it's never been more important in 2020 real estate has never been more important. In 2020, home values rose, the interest rates were lower, but the value, the emotional value of home was the highest. Because when we had to shelter in place, we sheltered in place at home. When we went on vacation, we didn't go on a cruise or on a plane. We did a staycation at home. When we went out to eat, we didn't go and we picked it up and we brought it back to our home. The emotional value of real estate has never been greater than what we're seeing right now. So what can we expect into 2021? Well, let's kind of look at the market and let's see what's happening. Lorenzo, take us to our next slide. We're going to actually look at the next slide. And when the market began to shift in March of 2020, we knew that tracking the market on a monthly basis would not be possible. It just wasn't enough. It wasn't sufficient. We had to track the market at a greater attention to detail. So we started tracking the market in each and every one of our markets by week. We wanted to see three simple things when the market changed. We wanted to see how many active homes for sale. These are properties available for sale in your community. They typically have a for sale sign. They're on the market. They're on Zillow. They're online. These are properties for sale. That would represent the supply. We also wanted to see what was the demand for real estate. What was the pent up demand for real estate? And then we wanted to see how many properties were sold. And that would represent the demand. So we looked at these and we looked at these three stats. And in this case, you're going to see that in every market that we track, this is just one of our 5 locations. It's the city of Concord. It's the biggest city in Contra Costa County. In every one of our markets that we tracked, 2 things happened. The red line, or the amount of demand for real estate, went up, and the blue line, the amount of inventory, the amount of supply, went down. Unbelievable. It occurred in every single market. In Elk Grove, it occurred in Sacramento, it occurred in Concord, it was and it occurred statewide. And we had greater demand for real estate and less inventory. And that's what caused pressure to push up home values. Let's go to the next slide, Lorenzo. So what actually happened? Well, there was more homes that were sold. In 2019, there were expected or anticipated, there was 398,000 homes that sold. In 2020, there were forecasted to be 393,000. And we actually sold 380,000 homes as a state. This is from the state of California. But look what happened to median price. In 2019, if you own a home, the median price home in the state of California was 592,000. In 2020, it jumped to 607, nearly 608,000. And in 2020, that was what it was forecasted. And in 2020, it was projected to end up at $640,000. This is what the Association of Realtors forecasted and projected, and there was a big gap. They projected that the median price would climb 2.5%, and after all analysis were in, they changed that projection to be 8.1%. But maybe what's most amazing is that the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, which in 2019 was at 3.9%, was forecasted to be at 3.7%, and it actually ended up projected at 3.2% at the end of the year. So what are we saying? Well, median price jumped by nearly 8% throughout the state of California. The 30-year fixed mortgage dropped by 0.5%, and we're seeing more and more fuel added to the market. So you have been hearing on the news, on radio for nearly 5 years, interest rates are at a record low. Interest rates have never been lower, and that is absolutely true. And it's been around for, it seems like, forever. I can think of times where I'm driving to and from and I'm listening to the radio, and I still hear people come on the radio and say interest rates at a record level. Get your low interest rate while supplies last, right? Limited supply of low interest rates, get it while it lasts. Well, that is absolutely what occurred, and interest rates just continued to decline all the way throughout 2020, spurring on a massive refinance boom. That refinance boom that occurred, it was a massive refinance boom, and it's really a lot of lenders were very, very busy serving their clients that needed to refinance. And homeowners were able to benefit by this refinance boom that occurred in 2020 by getting lower rates, which made their payment more affordable. Many people switched from a 30-year fixed mortgage to a 15, chopping 15 years off the life of their mortgage. And a lot of people began buying property because they just could afford it, where the year before they couldn't as a result of low interest rates. So the interest rates, they did drop even lower. And if you're selling a property or buying a property, either one, that's beneficial. If you're selling a property, it's beneficial to have low interest rates because you're probably buying another. And if you're taking out financing, you want to have low rates. If you're buying a home, it's very, very helpful because the lower your monthly payment and the more money you can drive to the principal balance, the better. So the interest rates were beneficial for both homeowners this year and those that were interested in buying a property. One of the things that occurred, and which is unprecedented, we now have a record low number of inventory. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about active listings. Active listings in 2020 plunged nearly 50%. 50% year-over-year change on active listings, active inventory. You know, I hear people all the time and they talk about different factors of the real estate market. And there's a lot of truth to a lot of different factors, but no factor impacts the real estate market simply like supply and demand. Supply and demand is the overall arching factor that helps and controls real estate and influences real estate like none other. The supply of properties for sale and the demand of buyers for those properties. And in this case, you see the supply for properties have continued to decline. And a lot of people have projected why they think that is, and they've speculated. One of the things that we have identified is that about 34 years ago, there was a baby boom. This boom occurred, this baby boom, and there were just more babies born 34 years ago than prior to that. And there was a baby boom, and that lasted for a few years. And ironically, today, the average age of a first-time home buyer is 34 years old. So we know that there's an increase in population, and that increase in population is absorbing so much of the inventory. Now you take that and you add some fuel to the fire, like low interest rates, and there's greater incentive for them to go out and buy a property. And so year over year, our inventory is a record low. If you're buying a property in some of our markets or just looking online, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because there's just not a lot to choose from. And that has been challenging for a lot of our buyers that are looking in the market, because there isn't a lot for sale. And yet when they buy a property and they finally find the right one and they move into it and they settle in, I think they're going to be glad that there wasn't a lot of inventory, not because the search was easier or because there was a lot of homes to choose from, simply because they're going to move in. They're probably going to forget about real estate or the market. They're not going to think about it. They're going to set up their house the way they want it, move in their furniture, hang their flat screen TV. And with the state of the market that we're seeing today, we are likely to see values continue to rise. And I'll get to that here a little bit later on what I think the market's going to be doing throughout 2021. But to give you kind of a sneak peek of where I'm going, with this low supply of real estate, just not enough homes for sale, we're likely to see prices continue to rise. What's important to know about the low inventory, there was a baby boom 34 years ago. I mentioned that. Another thing that you ought to be aware of is that builders just didn't build enough homes. Today, we see cranes, we see construction, we see dirt being moved everywhere. But we go back 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, that was not occurring. And there was what I call a self-imposed moratorium of builders. They just weren't building enough houses. And when they're not building enough houses, it didn't meet the demand for real estate for several years. And now we're at a state where we are starving for inventory. One of the benefits to this for a homeowner that's selling their property is they tend to have to do less to prepare the home for sale, simply because they're usually the only home in that community for sale on the market. Today, in some of our markets, you could see every home available in less than a weekend. And so that's one of the reasons why we're seeing so much of our prices in all the markets that we serve continue to rise. So where are sellers going? Like, where are they ending up? Well, it's interesting. This is a stat that talks about where the location of the seller's new home, where are they moving to? And you'll notice that on the left-hand column, it says within the same county, or in another county in California, in another state, out of the US, maybe they don't know, and the total number. In 2005, we had 38% of the people in the state of California moving within the same county. And 23% moved into another county in California. 31% of them moved out of state, and 1% in 2005 out of the US. 7% didn't know where they were moving. We fast forward to 2013, and that number of people moving out of state, which we're going to talk a lot about in a moment, dropped to 19%. Only 19%, 1 in 5 Californians that were selling their home moving out of state. Let's fast forward to what the final results were for 2020. In 2020, 36% of the people moved within the same county. 18% of the people moved in another county in California. 30% of the people, nearly 1 in 3, moved out of the state of California. And we're seeing that to be at a record level. Since 2005, we have never seen so many people, so many Californians moving out of our state. Still 1% move out of the United States. And now we have 15% that weren't sure or didn't answer the question. So 30% of the people, since 2005, we have not seen this percentage of people move out of the state of California. Well, why are they moving? That's an obvious question. And I've been doing this state of the market for several years. Every year I do this state of the market. And this is the first time in my life and doing this state of the market that the number one reason people are moving out of the state, according to the survey by the California Association of Realtors, why are they moving? And specifically, why are they moving out of their county? Is quality of life. 22% of the people said it's the quality of life has been diminished in the state of California, and that they are moving out as a result of that. It's almost always housing affordability, which is number two. Housing affordability, most people know that in the Bay Area and Sacramento, and the greater Sacramento region, is challenging. The rest of the state, there are some pockets where their housing is still very affordable, but in the San Francisco Bay Area and Sacramento County, housing can still be very unaffordable. And so that's one of the reasons why people are moving out of the county, 21%, because they believe that housing is unaffordable. It's housing affordability is the reason they're moving. And 15% said they want to move closer to family or relative. 15% of them said that. And those were the primary reasons for them changing county. So where are they going when they change counties? Well, you remember when you were in 5th grade and you learned about the Dust Bowl and you learned about the Great Migration, and you remember the stories where they were moving from the Midwest to California in the 1800s because of the California Gold Rush. And so the move was move west. Well, today they're putting a U-turn on that and they're moving east. And this is a simple chart that says the core Bay Area, San Francisco, Marin, San Mateo, where are people moving? And the first destination they move to is the East Bay. They moved to the East Bay. They moved to Contra Costa County. They're moving to Alameda County. They're moving to the East Bay. The second destination, and it's no surprise for many of you that are watching the state of the market, they're moving to Sacramento. And when it says Sacramento and the greater metro Sacramento market, they're not just talking about the city of Sacramento, but they're talking about the Sacramento and the neighboring communities and cities, the Roseville, the Folsom, the Elk Grove. They're moving to Rockland, Granite Bay. And we see nearly 18,000 people was the net migration out of the San Francisco market, out of Marin and out of San Mateo. And instead of moving west, now they are eastbound and moving to the East Bay and on to Sacramento. And what's interesting is there's a significant change in how people are desiring real estate, especially with COVID, because so many people are working from home. And so we see this movement from a urban environment to suburban, and then we see from suburban to rural. And that transgression, that transition over time, we see more and more people making that move from the urban environments to a suburban environment like East Bay, even into some of the rural areas in Sacramento. Even Sonoma County made the list, the beautiful Sonoma County, where there is a lot of rural properties in Sonoma County and along the coast as well. So that's where people are moving. They're moving to the East Bay and then on to Sacramento when they are staying in the state of California. Let's kind of take a look at where they're moving outside of the state. And this one, for some of you, might shock you, might surprise you. Let's go to the next slide, Lorenzo. So check this out. More and more people are moving out of state. We look at the Sacramento market and where people, we have offices throughout the Sacramento County area. And where are people moving? When they move from San Francisco to East Bay and then eventually to Sacramento, they're continuing that migration and they're moving to states like Nevada. They're moving to states like Idaho. They're moving to states like Oregon, Colorado. They're moving to states and they're continuing this transition east and moving all across the United States. I would add a few to that list. I see a lot of people moving to Texas. Texas is a very popular destination. Tennessee, another very popular destination for California residents to move to the state of Tennessee. We also see our neighboring states in Oregon, even Arizona, New Mexico, very popular destinations. And so we're seeing a significant migration from California to these areas. Idaho is very, very popular, especially by the Boise region. And we're seeing that migration from people moving from the Bay Area to Sacramento and from Sacramento to various parts of our country. And the U-turn of coming out west is now becoming going out east. So the moment you've all been waiting for, what's going to happen in 2021? And this is from the California Association of Realtors. We lean very heavily on the California Association of Realtors. This is their baseline study, baseline meaning that this is their middle range forecast. And if you notice, they thought that 2020 was projected to end just under 400,000 home sales, 398,000. And they're expecting more and more homes to sell into 2021. And they're expecting nearly 412,000 homes to sell in our state, increasing mobility. And one of the reasons why I think that's going to happen, although I don't think they use this in their analysis, but I think Proposition 19, and we've got a podcast coming up just on Proposition 19, so you can learn about how Proposition 19 works and the ability to transfer your tax base not within your county, but now statewide, as long as you meet certain criteria. That was on Prop 19. We voted on that in November. It passed. It is enacting in and be in effect in April. And so I've got a couple of podcasts scheduled to talk about. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's increasing the number of sales that are occurring. People feel more mobile. They feel like they can transfer that low tax base that they have on their property, and they can move it to an area that maybe is a little less affordable. Maybe they get a little bigger, a little smaller. Maybe they go a little bit more suburban or rural communities, and they're able to transfer that tax base. And that's Prop 19, and that's a big deal, and it's increasing the mobility. And the Association of Realtors believes that we're going to be up about 3% this year. There's going to be 3% more sales, and that's pretty sizable. We look in the past, sales have been kind of up and down, and we haven't seen a 3% increase on the number of properties that are being sold since 2015. Now, that's not price, and that's not median price. We'll get to that next. It's just number of sales. And so for some of my fellow real estate agents that are in the business, this is a great time for you to be in there, not to sell houses, but to serve people. People are transitioning, and we're convinced that nobody ever forgets their last move. I'm convinced that nobody ever forgets when they moved last. They remember eating pizza on moving boxes. They remember the moving truck. Nobody ever forgets their last move. And it's really an opportunity, if you're in the business and you're watching the state of the market, to serve people and help them have the kind of experience they're excited to tell a friend about. The move today is so much more than impacting a buyer or seller or homeowner or real estate agent. Today in the state of California, throughout the Bay Area and Sacramento, we have multi-generational housing. It's maybe mom and dad live there. Maybe you've got several children. You've got grandparents, maybe an aunt and uncle. It's multi-generational housing. So it doesn't just impact the principals or the owners of the property. It impacts the whole family. And this is an opportunity, if you're in the business, in the real estate business, and you're watching this, this is an opportunity to take good care of your people. This is an opportunity to guide them from one home to the next smoothly and efficiently. Let's go on to price, because that's what everybody asks me. What about my home value? Where's price going to go? Well, it was interesting. In 2019, we finished just shy of 600,000 at 592,000. And in 2020, we broke that ceiling, and it's projected that we ended up at nearly $661,000 as the median price for a home in the state of California. In the state of California. And so obviously that may be different in your county, in your market. And if you're connected with one of our team members, or you just want to know what your home value is, message us or put it in the comment box. We'll be happy to share with you what your value is, what's happening in your specific community, in your county, in your city. But this is what's happened across the state, 661,000. And we anticipate the real estate market in 2021 throughout the state of California to continue the appreciation, to grow even further, for home values to climb even higher, up 4.5%, up to 690,000. And 4.5% over the median price in the state of California, that's nearly at $700,000. And depending on the county, it could be even higher. Real estate is always location, location, location. And so based on the market and where it's located, that 4.5% could be a little higher or lower. But across the state, we're forecasting 2021 at the end of the year that your home will be worth about 4.5% higher than what it is today. And here's what's just as surprising to me. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage that we've all been hearing all this stuff about for the last 5 years, always talking about, what's happening with our 30-year mortgage and how low it is, and get it while the supplies last. And we are expecting that 30-year fixed rate mortgage to go from 3.2 forecasted to 3.1%. So we're expecting that to drop even further over the course of 2021. So we want to give you some tools. I hope this has been helpful to you. These are some tools and resources that are available for you. They're all free. They're all available for you to stay updated on what's happening in the market. And you can get to each and every one of these tools that we'll share with you today by just going to ricksmarketupdate.com, Rick's Market Update. The first tool we have is the ebook that we wrote, and this is absolutely free. You can get it at Rick's Market Update. We interviewed so many of our clients that were moving from the San Francisco Bay Area to the Sacramento region, Roseville, Rockland, El Dorado Hills, even Elk Grove. We interviewed them, and then we created an ebook on the process and how to make it easier. And we really kind of defined why people are moving, why they find those markets attractive, why they're looking in those areas for newer schools, newer parks, newer areas. And it's one of the reasons why we chose to open offices in both the Sacramento area and Elk Grove to be able to serve our clients in this market. So if that's a helpful tool, you can get it at ricksmarketupdate.com. We called the book The California Great Migration, because this migration of people not moving west, but now moving east, making a U-turn in history and moving east, first to Sacramento and then to various states, has been around for the last several years, and is the demand to move out of our community and into some of these others has continued to increase, and more homeowners are choosing to do that. The second tool or gift that we have for you today, by the way, these are all free. We have connected with real estate agents all over the country. This is just a snapshot of Colorado, Florida, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. And what we did is we interviewed them and we asked them to tell them about their community, and then to tell us a little bit about them. And here's the idea. I get calls all the time. Rick, we're thinking about moving out of state. We just don't know where. We're thinking between Texas and Idaho. We're thinking about Utah or Tennessee. We're thinking about Missouri or Michigan. So what we did is we went out and we interviewed them and said, tell us what's great about your community, and then give us a little bit about your information. You can go here. This is all on Rick's Market Update. We call it Rick's Pros. And this list is growing rapidly. I think within the last 48 hours, we have had nearly 50 people request to be on this list. So we vet them, make sure they're a good fit, and then we share that with our clients. They just want to click different communities, read about some of the highlights, in those states. And then if they want to learn more, they can contact that agent directly, and we provide you all the access to do that. You can get access to this at ricksmarketupdate.com. Again, absolutely free, and just a way to begin to learn about different areas, different communities, different markets, and be able to kind of explore what those communities have to offer. And the last tool that we have for you is, if you like this discussion and you want to learn more, I would warmly invite you to join one of our podcasts. We do our podcasts every Friday. We do them live. You can get to them on ricksmarketupdate.com, or you can go to connectwithrickfuller.com. And we're constantly sharing topics along these lines. Today was the state of the market. I'll be talking about Prop 19 coming up. There'll be several of those. You can subscribe at Rick's Market Update. Go to our Apple Podcast, go to Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever platform that you like to use. They're all available. We're even on iHeartRadio. And it's an opportunity for me to keep you updated on what's happening in our industry. And I really like to talk to investors. So if you're interested in investing in real estate, I talk a lot about real estate investing. And if you're like, hey, I don't know about investing, but I do own a home, well, you are an investor. And so we want to make sure you know how to own that home and how it can be a great investment for you. And this is our podcast. You can get to it at ricksmarketupdate.com, and all of that's available for you. So this slide, this presentation in its entirety, we are recording this in addition to our Facebook Live. We're going to then take that recording, we'll make some edits, and it will be found at Rick's Market Update. So if you're in the middle of doing dishes, or you just missed something that I had to say, or you want to watch it again, or you've got some questions and you want to review this webinar again, this event, the Market Update, go to Rick's Market Update. We'll probably have that up, I would imagine, in the next 24 hours, and you'll be able to watch this presentation there. I hope this has been informative for you. I hope this has been educational for you. At the end of the day, our goal is to make sure that you know what's happening in the market, more of a public service announcement or public service advisory, so that you've got a pulse on the real estate market. For most people, their greatest asset is their home. You should have a pulse on what's happening in that market. You should know what's happening in the markets around you. And if you're exploring other markets, this can be very helpful to learn where other people are choosing to move to. If you're interested in these things, feel free to connect with us at ricksmarketupdate.com, and we'd be glad to connect with you on one of our podcasts, get you the ebook. Access to Rick's Pros is all there, so you can review all of that. And I hope this has been helpful to you. I am debating on doing this on a quarterly basis. If there's a great enough demand, I probably will. I'd love to hear from you. If this has been helpful to you and you'd like to hear more about the state of the market on a quarterly basis, comment below. If it's something that you feel like, no, once a year is fine, then I'll continue with my annual Rick's Market Update. But we're finding a world that is ever changing, and nothing is the same as it was a year ago in our lives. And that is true in the housing market. And we want to make sure that our clients have a pulse on the market and they know where it's going. So if you'd like to see a quarterly update, just put in the comments below, hey, do a quarterly update, and we'll jump on Facebook Live and make sure we have that to you. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Thank the person that invited you to this event and hosted a watch party. We hope that you learned something. And remember, not owning real estate is hazardous to your wealth.